hearty welcome to Grandma's Wealth Wisdom with your hospitable hosts, Brandon and Amanda Neely. This is the only podcast for strategies to grow your wealth simply and sustainably, like Grandma used to. Without further ado, here are your hosts.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Brandon.
Obviously, we're not Grandma.
But we love her a lot, and she has a lot to teach us. We're really excited, so much so that we dedicated this podcast in her name.
Let's be clear right from the get-go. Our goal in this podcast is simple. It's to help you build wealth Grandma would be proud of.
Imagine for a second you're on Grandma's front porch. Grandma's front porch is a safe place to be in terms of her hospitality and care for your well-being. It's also a very dangerous place because you know Grandma is going to tell you like it is.
Now, we don't know what your relationship with your grandma is like. Personally, I only met one of my grandmas, and she passed away when I was only 5 years old. Yet my father was old enough to be my grandparent, so I got a taste of the greatest generation from him.
For me, I had a great relationship with my grandma and my great-grandmother too. I even lived with both of them during different points in my life. They both have greatly influenced my life and helped me become the man I am today. We'll be sharing some of our stories and some stories of the grandma with a capital G of Grandma's Wealth Wisdom.
The grandma of Grandma's Wealth Wisdom is smart and sassy. She's been around the block a few times and doesn't have any reason to please people. Grandma lives simply and sustainably, from gardening to sewing to cooking from scratch to seeing through the hype of the financial industry. Of course, she's stable financially and hopes her grandkids will learn from some of her lessons.
We're going to share the lessons Grandma wished she could share if she could sit on the front porch with you, if she could sip coffee with you, eat cookies with you, and give you the best financial education she could. The first thing Grandma would say is this: these are the lessons your baby boomer parents ignored to their own peril. She may laugh and say, sometimes intelligence skips a generation. Learn my lessons while you're young, and you'll do much better than your parents.
So here's your first word of warning from Grandma. Grandma has no idea what the economic climate is like when you're listening to this podcast. Perhaps the stocks are up, maybe they are down. Maybe the Fed just raised interest rates again, or maybe they delayed it a few months. Perhaps there's a bubble. Maybe the bubble just burst. Who knows? That's the point. Grandma's wealth wisdom is true and can change your life no matter what's happening in the financial world around you. You don't need the latest news on this company or that stock in order to build wealth.
Amanda, that sounds too good to be true.
Yep, and that's what I thought at first too. And that's exactly what Grandma would expect all of us to say, because that's what the financial edutainers sell to the masses. They want us to pay them the big bucks for information based on what's happening right now.
And sometimes, Amanda, their info is flat out wrong. Trust me, I've done the research.
True, Brandon. Some of their info is incorrect. Even the info they get right isn't what we need, though, because it's still info based on what's happening right now. Listen, friend, if you're following the typical advice out there, what you really need is a fortune teller who can predict the future and tell you what stocks are going to do, when the bubble's going to burst, who's going to be the next president, and what they're going to do to tax rates, and so forth. According to Grandma, when you're using typical advice, knowing the future is the only way you'll get ahead. So let me ask you this question. Can you predict the future, or do you know anyone who can?
I know I can't. And listener, if you can, please let us know, especially if you happen to have a sports almanac from 30 years in the future.
If you can't predict the future and you don't have that sports almanac, that's exactly why you need to listen to Grandma's Wealth Wisdom. Grandma knew the wisdom that worked in her day and continues to work now.
Subscribe and listen to each episode to get to know Grandma and her wealth proverbs. If you follow her wisdom, you can build wealth that lasts for generations, no matter your starting point.
Until the next episode, keep building your wealth simply and sustainably for your own future and the future of our grandchildren's generation.